Peterbot just won the 2024 FNCS Global Championships. He also won this tournament, and all of these other tournaments. And all of these were just in the year 2024, which is barely halfway over. Peter's rise to the top of competitive Fortnite has been nothing short of historic.
I think honestly he's really good.
Peterbot and Poyo living up to the hype.
You watch the most dominant grand finals I've ever played. In 5 years, this will still be talked about here.
If you can get away with cheating that long, then I'm gonna give up watching Fortnite.
Today, we will not only discuss and review how Peter won $400,000 this weekend, but also how he rose to the top of competitive Fortnite after being just a kid on his PlayStation a year ago. For those of you who are OG Timmy fans, you know I've already done a video about the story of Peterbot before, but for those of you who missed out, I'm going to do a small recap of Peter's career up until this weekend, and then we can talk more about how he just had a historic win. Peterbot Kata was born on June 20th of 2007. That means as of the making of this video, he is barely 17 years old, which is insane considering the amount of money he has made playing this game, and we're gonna talk more about that later. But clearly, Peterbot started gaming at a young age, and he actually started playing Fortnite during the first season ever on his PlayStation 4.
I was in school with my friends, and actually my cousin. My cousin told me to get the game. I was just playing with all my IRL friends and stuff. Just having fun like every other kid when it first came out.
Quickly, however, Peter realized that he was better than his friends. A lot better than his friends. On top of that, he also realized that the console community just wasn't as good, and if he wanted to go pro, he would need a PC. A couple years later, in early 2020, Peter would get the opportunity to get his first PC and eventually take his dive into professional Fortnite. On September 2nd of 2020, at just 13 years old, Peter made his very first earnings of $250 in Caster's Contender Cup. Although $250 may not seem like a lot compared to the hundreds of thousands and millions that he's winning now, you have to realize that as a 13-year-old kid, $250 probably felt like he was rich. For the first year of his competitive play in 2020, Peter kept taking home smaller cash prizes and earned a total of $1,200 in the December Frosty Frenzy competition. For the first half of 2021, Peter managed to place in the top 100 in a bunch of cash cups and an FNCS, winning a few $100s here and there. But he was just about to take home his biggest earnings ever in 2021 that summer. Peter earned himself a spot in the FNCS All-Star Showdown on June 26th of 2021. He did not only better than people thought he would, but better than anyone could have ever imagined. Peter, in his first massive solos tournament, would place 8th in the finals, earning him a whopping $18,000. This was obviously huge for Peter, not only because that's a lot of money, but because he is still 14 years old when all of this is going down. On top of the money, this placement also showed the Fortnite community that Peter was a force to be reckoned with. And with the relatively new Trios game mode being part of FNCS now, it was important that he proved himself in order to get good teammates. Following this standout performance in solos, veteran player P-God and another young gun named TK would reach out to Peterbot to see if they wanted to join the two to trio. For those of you that don't know, P-God was not only one of the better competitive Fortnite players, but he was also incredibly popular. In August of 2021, P-God and Peterbot and TK were definitely underdogs leading up to FNCS, but they were ready to prove everybody wrong. You see, Peterbot was no stranger to being the underdog. Peter was nobody in the Fortnite community just 6 months ago, and now he was playing with some of the world's best players on the world's biggest tournaments. Leading up to the FNCS, just weeks before the qualifier, the dynamic trio would win their first cash cup together, taking home $600.
Let's go! Let's go!
And after this incredible performance in the Cash Cup, they did even better in the qualifiers, finishing first in the Session 2 FNCS semifinals. Just a week later, it was time for the Grand Finals, and Peterbot, along with TK and P-God, were ready to prove their deniers wrong. Unfortunately, the team did not place in the top 10 like they were looking to do, but with an 11th place finish out of 33 teams, they still took home $2,500 in earnings, which again is a a lot for just a couple of kids. And although this trio looked very promising following their first performance in FNCS together, unfortunately it didn't last very long. To the surprise of many of his peers, Peter decided he didn't want to continue playing with Peterbot and TK following FNCS. Regardless of them not playing together anymore, however, Peterbot undeniably helped elevate Peterbot's fame. Before the two played together, Peter had only 4,000 followers on his Twitter account, and by the time they split, he had 10x the followers at 40,000 in just a few months of playing with Peterbot.
I had 4,000 followers when I started playing with him. I have like almost 40k on Twitter now, and like I appreciate it a lot.
And with all of these new followers, Peter was ready to show the world that he was one of the best players around. So for the next season of Trios, Peter caught the attention of some players called Bucky and Macwood. And if you don't know who those veterans are, you must be under some kind of Fortnite rock. This trio would team up for the very first time on October 18th of 2021. Peter, of course, wanted to play with good players in general, but another huge part of the equation here is that Macwood and Bucky had an uncontested drop spot. You see, one of the reasons that Peter's team got 11th is because they were contested on the drop with Peterbot and TK, which makes it a lot harder to perform well. So with an uncontested drop and everything to prove, it was time to drop into the grand finals. And unfortunately, things didn't pan out the way they thought they would, because not only did Peter not do better than he did last season, he got exactly the same 11th place once again, earning another $2,300. After this happened, Peter got some backlash from the community on his decision to leave Peterbot. Peter's growing confidence had turned relatively cocky, and he thought that he was perhaps better than he was at the time. But later on in this video, we're going to talk about this week's tournament, and you'll see how this confidence was definitely justified, as Peter would become one of the best players in the world. But for now, we're still at Peterbot being 14 years old. The young Peterbot did, however, seem to learn a lesson, as he decided to stick together with Bucky and Macwood for another season. And this would probably be the best decision in Peter's young career, because shortly after the 11th place finish in FNCS, Epic Games would announce the Fortnite Grand Royale. The Grand Royale was set to take place in that following November with a multi-million-dollar prize pool. And let's just say that this trio sticking together was a really good decision. Peter and his trio finished in an amazing 4th place, which earned the trio $30,000. It seemed like all was going well for Peter. He had the trio of his dreams, making money, and growing on social media. However, things would come to a screeching halt. This is because Epic Games decided that in just 1 month, in January of 2022, the competitive game mode would switch from trios back to duos. And with Bucky and Macwood sticking together, this meant Peter was once again on the hunt for a teammate. But let's be honest, Peter wasn't going to have to look for a teammate for that long. After playing with some of the best in the business and placing so high in Grand Royale, there was no way that somebody wasn't going to scoop up this young prodigy and take him to the promised land of winning an FNCS. Peter tested out a couple of teammates, hoping to find the perfect fit for the new season. He tried playing with the GOAT Kanata, Nani, his old trio member Macwood, and even ran up FNCS with his good friend Quanti. But after 6 months of trying and not performing the way that he wanted to, Peter decided to give up on playing with other top players. And instead, he made a decision that once again would change his life forever. Peter remembered what Peterbot did for him, taking a young player with a lot of prospect and giving them an opportunity and crafting them into a better player that can fit his playstyle. Now, this is where things are going to get very interesting and take off very fast for the young Peterbot. With the second FNCS of 2022 just around the corner, Peter would decide to give Byla, a very cracked controller player, a chance. And although Byla was technically older than Peterbot, it felt similar to the Peterbot situation, where Peter was ready to take this guy under his wing. And that's exactly what happened, because Byla did not let this opportunity go to waste. Peter and Byla came in first place of Qualifier 1 for FNCS, which sent them directly to the grand finals. And it was here that Peter would solidify his name in the conversation for one of the greatest players in Fortnite history. On May 29th of 2022, Peterbot won his first FNCS Finals.
Peterbot and Byla, officially your FNCS champions. You love to see it. That was the most incredible day one, and then they were just hanging out, dancing it out like you were earlier.
Peter had finally done it. From an awkward console kid to an FNCS champion in less than 2 years.
How did you feel after winning your first Grands with Byla?
Felt great. It was like the best feeling in the world. I mean, you just won.